This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time and also one of the very few movies in my life to ever truly scare me. Let's do it. Possession opens up with this old woman standing in her living room looking at this box that has this Hebrew writing written in it. From the box, we hear this whispering in a different language that translates to, "I will eat your heart." The woman goes towards the box with a hammer, clearly in an attempt to destroy it, but all of a sudden she freezes. She starts shaking uncontrollably and she is attacked by this unseen force and falls unconscious. Then we meet our main character, this man Clyde, who is played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And Clyde and his wife Stephanie, Kira Sedgwick, are in the middle of a divorce. Clyde and Stephanie have two daughters, Hannah, who's a teenager, and Emily, who is 10. Again, they're in the middle of a divorce, so Clyde is moving into his new home, and Emily and Hannah are helping him. And then they decide to go to a yard sale, where Em finds the box that we saw from the beginning. So she's holding the box in the yard, and she looks inside and sees the old woman from the beginning completely bandaged up, obviously fucked up from the opening incident. She sees Emily holding the box and starts screaming and flipping out, and Em obviously is terrified and runs away. So her dad ends up buying her the box and they take it home, and once they get home they realize that there's no way to open this thing. So they give up. Em goes to sleep that night, but as she's sleeping she hears whispering coming from the box. And then the next day she's able to easily open it despite the fact that it literally was not opening no matter what they did. In the box, she finds some weird shit, including this wooden figurine, a dead moth, a tooth, and this ring that she then starts to wear. And as you can imagine where this is going next, Em starts to get increasingly more bizarre and withdrawn. She gets really obsessive over the box, and she even starts taking it to school. And when one of the boys in her class tries to touch it or take it, she violently attacks him in class. That obviously causes the teachers to call Emily's mother and father to school to talk about her behavior. And they're like, Emily's weirdly obsessed with this box. She should probably spend some time away from it. So they leave it at school as she goes home. So that night, the teacher is working late and she's in the classroom with the box and she starts to hear these noises coming from it. She goes to investigate and tries to open it, but she is then thrown out a window by an unseen force and dies. Emily's behavior worsens, and now we're just noticing some weird shit. So she looks down her throat in the mirror and she sees these fingers coming up from inside of her. One morning, she stabs her father in the hand with a fork when he tries to make her slow down eating. And she's eating quite a lot, and when her father brings it up in a demonic voice, she says she's still hungry, or it's still hungry. Something to imply that there is a force inside of her that is needing food. And then Emily tells her father that there is a woman living inside the box that tells Emily that she is special. So Clyde at this point is completely freaked the fuck out and is like, you know what, fuck this, I'm throwing this thing away. This causes Emily and Clyde to get in a fight, and it looks like he slaps her when in reality he doesn't lay a hand on her. So Emily flees the house barefoot and goes to find the box that he just threw out. She finds the box and hears a voice coming from it, and it's at this point that it possesses her, and that's where we get this cover photo. Stephanie, meanwhile, hears from the other daughter, Hannah, that Clyde hit Emily, which really didn't happen. So now there's an order from a judge that prevents Clyde from seeing his kids. But Clyde knows that there's something up, so he takes this box to a university professor to find out what the fuck it is. And he finds out that this is a Dybbuk box, which dates back to the 1920s or 30s. And a Dybbuk is a dislocated spirit that is as strong as a demon, and it was trapped in this box. So Clyde ends up finding this rabbi who tells him that possessions usually have 3 main steps. And the final stage is that the Dybbuk latches onto its human host and the two become one and it completely takes over. So that's where Emily's headed. And the only way to stop it is to force the demon or the Dybbuk back into the box and contain it there via ritual. The rabbi looks at the box further and discovers that the name of the Dybbuk translates to the taker of children. So that's why it targeted Emily. Obviously, Clyde tells this to Stephanie, who's not believing it. But then Emily has a seizure and ends up being rushed to the hospital. They do an MRI scan, and in the scans, you can see this terrifying demonic face. And that's what makes Hannah and Stephanie finally be like, okay, you might be right about this. So Clyde then calls the rabbi to the hospital to conduct this ritual. Obviously, as you can imagine, the ritual turns into utter fucking chaos. Emily, at one point, this is the scariest part of the movie for me. I don't know why. It's completely dark. All you see is this light blinking. You can barely see anything. And Emily, in the same tone and cadence, keeps repeating, "Daddy, you scared me," and then does this little cry laugh thing. It doesn't sound scary, but I promise it is. So the Dybbuk attacks Clyde. He manages to fight it off, but then the Dybbuk transfers from Emily to Clyde, so now he becomes possessed. A struggle ensues, but ultimately the rabbi is able to get the Dybbuk out of Clyde and force it back into the box. It's this really creepy scene. We see the thing literally crawl out of Clyde and crawl into the box. The family reunites and Clyde and Stephanie fall in love again. Aww. The rabbi decides to take the box because obviously he's going to keep it in a safe place where nobody can open it again. But as he's driving away, his car is hit by a truck and he dies. And of course, the only thing that is still whole in the wreckage is the fucking box. And we just hear whispers coming from it and the movie ends.